Hi, everybody. In the last episode, we were discussing about the productivity of our time. We were discussing about the available time and the productive time. We talked about the installed capacity and the available capacity. Now, we were discussing various factors. Now, we talked about the body-mind linkage. We talked about acquisition of knowledge. Now, does it mean we can manipulate people? Now, about 10-15 years ago, when I was teaching the so-called time management, I was focusing more on the behavior, external behaviors. Now, get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go for an jogging, and do this, do that, get into the habit of reading books. Now, does it happen so easily? Now, we are not things. We are thinking beings. We are meaning-making beings. Something has to be meaningful to us. Otherwise, we will not do that. Now, we were discussing about ritual. The ritual is something which we do without any reason. We are asked to do, so we do it. But such activities, such forced conformance to rules and regulations will not be sustained. So we need to go a little more into the mind and the brain linkage. Now we have the 5 senses. Now we see, we hear, we taste, we smell, and we feel. Now these 5 senses are controlled by the brain. When the brain is not functioning, these functions will not be evident, will not be visible, will not be apparent. For example, when we are drugged, for example, or when we are given an anesthesia, or in some chemicals the brain is affected, or a person has gone into a cerebral coma, he will not be able to see, he will not be able to hear, and the 5 senses are not at his disposal, right? In addition to these 5 senses, there should be the 6th sense. The 6th sense is the mind. Now, for all practical purposes, I tell in my executive seminars that we are not just the result of the 5 senses, but the 6th sense, the mind, is also very, very important. Now, supposing I say that I have no control on my hand, and I have no control on my, let's say, eyes, I have no control on my legs, what will be the scenario? What will be the consequence? And so, the same will be the consequence when you say, I have no control on my mind. So there is always the mind and the brain linkage. Now I am recalling an old couplet written by Adi Shankara in a compilation called Viveka Choodamani. Adi Shankara wrote in Viveka Choodamani that 5 different living species are destroyed in 5 different ways. For example, if there is a forest and in the forest there is a deer is captured by making a sound. So if the sound is made, the deer goes this way, and sound is made there, the deer goes this way, and then it is cornered. If only the deer had not heard the sound, maybe the deer would not have lost his freedom and life. Now, if you look at a fish, the fish is swimming underneath the water, and some prey is given, and the fish succumbs to the temptation of eating, and so goes and catches the prey, and it is lifted, and it loses its freedom and life. Then you have seen these honeybees. The honeybees go taking the scent of where the pollen is and go sit inside, let's say, a lotus flower, and the lotus flower closes. If only it has not have fallen prey to the smell, the sense of smell, it would have lost its freedom, right? Then in a forest, a wild male elephant is captured by a trained female elephant. They dug what is called a kedda, and it is actually a ditch covered by maybe light material, and a female elephant is allowed to go that side. The male elephant follows, and the male elephant falls. right? So the feeling destroys the elephant, the smell destroys the honeybee, the sound destroys the deer, and then we have the fifth. There is what is called a fireflies. These fireflies go in search of light. If there is a light, these fireflies goes there and they fall inside the fire. If the fireflies have not seen the fire, maybe they would have saved. They wouldn't have got into the trap, right? Then Adi Shankara says these 5 species are destroyed by 1/5 of their senses, but the human being is destroyed by all the 5 senses. What an amazing comparison. So we have to have a control on the mind. The mind has to take charge. Now let's say we talk about focus. We talk about how the mind has to be focused on a project. In the later episodes, we're going to discuss about goal setting. We're going to discuss about task. We are going to discuss about activities, time frames, time zones. So you need to focus. So where is the control? Let me go back to one of my episodes where I was talking about the phenomenon called the brain. I explained to you that in terms of brain composition, in terms of brain content, the brain is across the human race identical. I was talking to you about Dr. Glenn Doman Institute in Philadelphia, the Institute for the Enhancement of Human Resources. And there they talk about how the brain can be made more effective, more efficient. I read in books that brain is identical, which means brain is identical in terms of parts, function, location, everything. There is no difference at all. Now, if the brain is responsible for the human behavior, then how do you explain differences in human behavior because the brain is the same? Let us take an example. Now, let's say that you and I have the same cell phone, mobile phone. They are manufactured in the same company. And the company is so good in terms of quality standards that parts per million accuracy rate is maintained, quality rate is maintained. Right? Now, you dial, let us say, a short dialing code 1 and you get a number. When I put 1, I should get the same number because the cell is the same, the mobile is the same. We don't do that. We don't get that. The reason, is the SIM card. If I put your SIM card, if I program my computer to sync with what you have, if I dial 1, I will also get the same number. Now, this comparison is valid. If you take the brain as the mobile phone, the SIM card is the mind. If I transfer the content of your mind to my mind, and my mind also gives the same command to my eyes will see the same thing which you see. If my mind commands the hearing capacity to listen to particular music, which you also listen, my mind and your mind will be able to produce the same result. So it is not the question of the brain configuration, it is how the mind and the brain work. We are going to discuss how the mind can be tamed, how the mind can be made to work on important areas of productivity. I promise we make a difference in your life. See you in my next episode.